Yo, what's up guys? You got pokeaim here with another Pokemon Sword and Shield moveset video guide on how to use Boltund. Now Boltund is a pure electric type dog Pokemon with a great speed stat at base 121. Two decent abilities in Strong Jaw as well as competitive, though competitive is not released, so we won't be talking about that right here. And it doesn't really have the special attack moveset to use that. And it has decent attack at base 90. So I think the big thing, like I mentioned, is this Pokemon is fast. It's actually faster than Pokemon that are relevant in the UU tier, such as Inteleon, Gengar. So being faster than those is really, really nice, especially when you threaten them with super effective moves. Strong Jaw is really cool because it gives basically all its bite-based moves a 1.5 times power increase. So moves like Thunder Fang and Fire Fang, Crunch, and Psychic Fangs. It has so many cool moves that it can abuse with this, and it actually just has some great coverage because of that. The moves are actually a lot stronger than what you would think. So the first set we're going to be talking about is the Choice Band Boltund set. And this is going to be using the fact that being faster than those mons and having that good physical move pool allows it to actually have some decent coverage. So these sets going to have Thunder Fang and Fire Fang. I think those are a given. Thunder Fang is your stab move. It is stronger than Wild Charge, if I'm not mistaken, with the Strong Jaw boost. If I am mistaken, then it shouldn't be here, but I'm pretty sure I'm not mistaken. And Fire Fang is good for the grass types that do resist the electric type attacks, as well as pretty cool for some steel types too, like Steelix in the UU tier. But being able to hit Pokemon like Eldegoss as well, and just doing some damage, it's just incredibly strong. We do have Play Rough or Psychic Fangs as the third move. I think that Psychic Fangs is just really useful, being able to knock out Como. But you can do as well the same thing with Play Rough, and Play Rough will guarantee knockout Como, even if it's like a max HP variant. It also is a 2-hit KO on physically defensive Appleton, which is why it's like an option over Psychic Fangs there. With Stealth Rocket's guaranteed 2-hit KO on a max defense Appleton, and obviously just having those strong. A big thing about Boltund is being able to use Dynamax moves as long as they're still allowed. Allows it to just hit a lot harder, setting up either the Sun for Fire Fang in the following turns, or the Electric Terrain for Thunder Fang, making it that much stronger. But Play Rough is definitely an option for those Dragon types in the tier. Flygon is also down there, same thing as Goodra, so and Noivern, so they're all legitimate options. The last option, or the last moveset we have, is Crunch. I think that Crunch should always stay, just as an option for hitting Pokemon like Mew. So it does beautiful damage to Mew, but also just it's a good neutral move. It doesn't miss, can lower the defenses, but I think the big thing is obviously Psychic Fangs doesn't miss either, but the big thing is that you're able to get that super effective damage on Pokemon like Mew. Also Runerigus, I believe that's the evolution of the Galarian Mask. Well, I believe that's how you say the name anyway. I know it's the evolution of the Galarian Mask, but giving you a strong hit versus that, a strong hit versus Reuniclus. Really, really nice coming from this Pokemon with its already Strong Jaw and Choice Band boost. Another option, by the way, I think that Crunch should always stay, like I said, especially because there are ground types in the tier that will be trying to wall you, like Gastrodon. And Crunch, if it's not physically defensive, is a 2-hit KO. But, and even if it is physically defensive, again, having that chance to lower their defense with Crunch can turn a 3-hit KO into a 2-hit KO because of that, if you get that drop. But another option is potentially Volt Switch, even though we are Choice Band. Sometimes in order to deal with potential Pokemon, we want to get on out of there, get some chip on them, and then switch out into a different Pokemon in order to let that thing do some damage. I personally think that all 4 should be physical attacks, but Volt Switch is an option just for momentum, especially because the Pokemon is incredibly fast. But I personally believe that you should run Thunder Fang, Fire Fang, Crunch always, and then your last move should either be Psychic Fangs or Play Rough. Or, I mean, if you want to use something as a more of a support move that isn't necessarily for this Pokemon to do work, but something else, you could use potentially Nuzzle to paralyze your opponent. Now, the next set we have is the Life Orb Boltund, and it's basically very similar to the Choice Band set, but you're able to mix up moves. So we have Thunder Fang and Fire Fang, they're always a given, and the next move is either Crunch or Psychic Fangs. Thunder Fang into Psychic Fangs does knock out offensive Como, same thing with Fire Fang into Psychic Fangs. Again, Crunch is there for the Rune, as well as bulky Psychics in general, Mew, and I already mentioned like Reuniclus as well. And then we have Volt Switch for momentum, and this this is a little bit more, I think this one is a little bit better at running moves like Volt Switch because it already has the ability to switch up moves anyway without the need of Dynamaxing due to its running a Life Orb and not a choice item. So a Volt Switch isn't too bad on this, and you might want to run something with like Spike support as well. Some good spikers in the UU tier would include Pokemon like Garbodor. Cloyster is also an option as a spiker teammate. Also, Cloyster can shrug off like ground type attacks aimed at Boltund. These Pokemon being an electric type, it only has one weakness, but of course they're not going to make the electric types anything crazy when they only have one weakness. So 60 base defenses and 69 HP isn't the best in terms of taking an attack. So, but Volt Switch is really nice just for getting in potentially stronger Pokemon on Mons that might want to deal with this. Like, for example, maybe an Appleton, because you don't have Ice Fang, might want to come in, and if you're not running Play Rough, you're not going to be able to deal with it, but being able to Volt Switch out into like a Dynamax Charizard, for example, and hit them with a Max Airstream could be a pretty cool type of teammate. But yeah, Volt Switch giving you that momentum potentially, and Crunch and Psychic Fangs is there. Depending on the trade, you could potentially run, I think, Psychic Fangs more so on this one, just because Como is something that could be a little bit annoying, whereas Mew you can at least Volt Switch on, but you can have the argument for both of them that you could do the exact same thing. Just depends on your teammates. Last set we have is using Bulk Up, which is in this Pokemon's arsenal. It's an attempt to raise its attack to be that much stronger, and the cool thing about this is you can run a Life Orb as well, so you're able to still switch up moves, obviously, but also you end up stronger than what the Choice Band would have done. I think I just like smacked my chair. My bad, guys. But Bulk Up, Fire Fang, Thunder Fang, and Psychic Fangs. Thunder Fang should have been red first, but I think Psychic Fangs is 100% necessary on this one. If you're going to go for a Sweeper Boltund, you want to be able to hit Como, right? I think Como is a given. And also, obviously, after a Bulk Up, and Psychic Fangs is going to hit incredibly hard on everything anyway as a neutral move. And just being able to still hit Gengar and knock him out, break through screens is really nice too. It's just a good neutral move, I believe, especially when boosted. So in terms of checks and counters, bulky ground types like physically defensive Gastrodon is a pretty solid check. Same thing with physically defensive Appleton can be an answer. Honestly, anything faster. I think the big thing this Pokemon has to deal with is the fact that it really hates taking hits. That's like, I mean, it's a strong Pokemon. Well, it's a fast Pokemon. It's not necessarily strong. If it was like base 100 or base 110, it'd be a lot better. But it's a fast Pokemon. It doesn't really take hits despite having only one weakness. So even like shrug off hits like a Braviary's Brave Bird, for instance, will be doing some damage. And overall, it's just not that strong too. So even like a Pokemon like Caparaja can at least take a neutral Fire Fang from a Life Orb set, if they're running like max HP variants as well. So then bulky ground types are definitely something you want to worry about. So running grass types, running flying types can potentially work. I've also used potentially Avalog plus Boltund. And the reason I had Avalog is Avalog provided rapid spin support for the heavy duty boots, but also could take the hits from a Powdon coming out at Boltund in the lower tiers. I think that it's a pretty decent though, like Dynamaxer. I really do think it's a pretty decent Dynamaxer, just because of its nice coverage in terms of move pool. And though a lot of times you'll miss out on that strong jaw boost on everything, but Dynamax only lasting 3 turns, and being able to get up that electric terrain for Boltund, being able to get up that terrain in general. Speaking of electric terrain, Pincurchin is a decent teammate as well. I actually have an OU team I haven't used, and I was debating using OU for this when I feature it, but with Pincurchin, which is pretty cool. And you can run like a cool little niche Pincurchin, Boltund, Howlucha type of team, and those are all mons that can benefit from that. But basically, you want Pokemon that can deal with the bulky grass types that can still take Fire Fangs. And I think that another cool thing is if you're using Bulk Up, you can even run Adamant. Now, the cool thing about Adamant is you're still faster than base 100s by a good chunk, right? You hit 331 speed with Adamant. But if you want to do that, I feel like you want to run Sticky Web. That way Gengar and Inteleon are still outsped. The cool thing about Sticky Web and UU is it's basically everywhere. So you have a whole lot of options like Ribombee and Araquanid, Shuckle as well, if I'm not mistaken, assuming Shuckle still gets Sticky Web in this. But I know I've used Ribombee and I've used Araquanid as potential options. And in terms of breakers too, for those bulky Pokemon that Boltund can't actually break through, Obstagoon is a pretty cool teammate as well. With the Flame Orb, And that's also another thing that takes advantage of potentially sticky web. So they work really well together on the offensive side. And also, like, if you're lacking crunch in your moveset and you don't want to worry about Mew, Obstagoon is a Pokemon that can deal with that. Orbeetle is also another sticky webber that can work with Boltund on the more offensive veins, and like even like Passimian with like some Volt Turn combination with Volt Switch plus U-turn from that can work. So I mean, that's basically all I have to do. All I have to say, I think, when it comes to this Pokemon. Hits pretty hard, decently fast, and well, really fast, but it hits hard because of its strong jaw ability and whatever item you're running with it, whether it be a life orb or a choice spam. But yeah, that's all I have to say. I'll be showing off this Pokemon later today in the Showdown Live. Thank you everybody for watching. I will see you guys next time. Goodbye, my friends.